Everyone, hope everything's going well. You guys and gals know that drill. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below. Follow me on Instagram at AIH_sports. Follow me on my finance channel at AIH Finance. So, I wanted to touch base on the so-called banking crisis and how can I tie it into sports cards, okay? Now, I don't want to get too much in the finance aspect, but there are some important concepts which could tie into sports cards. So, number one, you had this SVB Bank in Silicon Valley, and they have branches throughout the U.S. That bank had to be bailed out, basically, or the depositors are bailed out. And too many people took their money out of that bank. I've been talking more about my finance channel, and if you want to check my thoughts completely on that, go there. But I'm just here to summarize it. Okay, so that bank went under. You had Signature Bank went under as well, or they shut it down. Okay, so there wouldn't be a disaster situation. And it was tied to crypto. And they invested in securities that have taken a beating, treasury bonds, okay? On my day job, what I have to do is I have to reconcile statements regarding T-bills, T-bonds, etc., going between exchanges. It's, fast moving, especially right now with what's going on in the markets. So now, someone will be like, okay, how could you tie this into sports cards? Well, that's a good question. Number one, so the thing is, I talk a lot about if you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? And this is what the silver stackers talk about, right? And it is basically to protect yourself from counterparty risk. If the banks go under, you got some tangible good, okay, or tangible asset as silver, right? And in regards to sports cards, I believe the same thing is true. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And this example, you could go back over a year ago with the situation that occurred with Mark's Cars, aka I call him Karl Marx. And a lot of people trusted their cards with him, and he walked it over the PSA. He wasn't paying the bill, so it was in limbo. But PSA eventually said, hey, look, we're going to take care of the customers. And that's, one positive thing that PSA did. All right, I do bash them all the time, but okay, they did something good there. Okay, when they really didn't have to. And they gave those cards back, or vast majority of cards have been sent out to the original owners, but it's like way after the market has tanked. So that is one of the down parts, but at least some people are getting the cards. I mean, they paid their money to the individual, Mark's Cards, but Mark's Cards didn't pay PSA. PSA had to write it off, basically. So that's an example of, you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? You could have actually sent it to PSA yourself, but this is why I don't want to deal with group submitters. And the other thing about group submitters, I did videos about this last year. There were group submitters where, I think there was one in London, they submitted cards and it got lost in the mail. And there was some insurance issue, and the insurance wasn't covering all the costs. It was just a nightmare situation. So you have that going on, all right? And I'm just thinking, okay, we see this banking crisis, going back to the banks, right? I think, in the next year or so, things should be okay, right? There's still structural problems, in my opinion, with the economy. But, all markets should bounce back, in my opinion, including sports cards, and that should be fine. But the thing that I'm thinking about, or what I'm just my own thought process. Number one, what if the banks actually do, or what happens if you see multiple banks like Silicon Valley Bank go under, right? The FDIC does not have enough money to bail out these banks. Maybe a few banks like these ones that have gone under, but vast majority of the banks, no, that's not possible. And eventually they're going to probably tax deposits, or some people are going to have to take the loss on it. And that's just unfortunately the way it's going to go. Now, once again, some people would be like, okay, how does it tie into sports cards, right? So suppose you are dealing with an auction house, right? Or you're dealing with a vault, a storage system, right? And there are pros to that. I understand the concept of why it would be great, tax-free, right? If you use it in the state of Delaware for alt, for the PSA vault. There is the vault for the PWCC in Oregon, no sales tax. So I understand why people would flock to it, right? And eBay also has it in Delaware, right? A very tax-friendly state. Now, what if the unthinkable happens, right? That one of these companies banks with a bank that goes under, right? Hopefully this does not happen at all, but we've seen this almost happen. But Uncle Sam saved the day. Uncle Sam is not going to save the day with the situation if it happens to many other banks. So, the thing is, if you're storing cars in a vault, always remember that phrase. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? You don't know what happens, if the lowest possibility, I don't, let me just rephrase this. I still think it's a low possibility, but if the firm does go under, right, one of these companies, in my own thoughts, I think two of these companies have structural issues, right? That doesn't mean they're going to go bankrupt, but that's just my own thought process, right? But anyways, one of these companies goes under, right? What happens to your card? Okay? How does that work out? Now, PWCC, I believe in their insurance or on their website says that, hey, look, there's insurance on these, okay, but what's the actual stipulations of the contract? That's what I'd be asking. And ultimately, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like, look at the people that put their cash, their business in one bank. They're lucky that the government bailed them out. But in a situation where, hey, look, you have a vast majority of your cards in one vault, and that vault goes under, or that company goes under, what happens to your card? It could be a long period of time before you get those cards back. Or would it go to the creditors of the actual company? So, even though this is still a low probability happening to all the vaults and all the companies, something you should keep in mind, right? The phrase, once again, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And ultimately, you don't want to be putting all your cards in one company, because if you do, you're putting yourself at risk. And also, what if the vault burns down, right? Low probability, right? Theft, right? Some people say, okay, look, it's well guarded. Okay, it's well guarded. But, all sorts of things going on, right? Someone suggested that, hey, one of these companies, what if they're using customers' cards and they're just lending it out? It sounds insane, you don't know what they're doing with it. Hopefully it's just sitting there in a vault and doing nothing. But, with all the crazy things going on in the industry, anything is possible. I personally, I may keep some in the bank. It's not too many cards out there, but I do. Some in a very secure safe. I keep, some of the high-end stuff there. But, me sending it out to another company, I just don't feel comfortable. But anyways, I wanted to hear your thoughts. Do you put some of your cards in a vault? Do you keep it outside, you know, in a secure location, in some sort of safe? Where do you keep your cards? I'm just curious on what you do about that. And if you're doing the vaults, what percentage, you know, of your card assets are involved with that? That's something I'm interested in hearing. Anyways, let me know what you think. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, comment down below. Thank you. Bye.